I think you're right on that. And what was it that Jesus said? The Great Commission: go into all the world and preach the gospel and make disciples.
Right.
So I think the disciple making process is at least 50% of what the church's mission should be. And it's the pastor's responsibility, I believe, to ensure that that is happening, that discipleship is happening, especially in a megachurch setting. I know we haven't gotten to house churches yet, but especially for the megachurch setting, the senior pastor has got to be discipling a core group with the intention of that core group discipling their own core group,
Right.
and all the way down the line.
Right.
Filters all the way down to the body. One friend of mine said, and he's I forget what ministry he's in right now, but he was giving a leadership lecture, and he said, as a pastor, I can't know everybody, but everybody can know somebody.
Yeah.
So like the senior pastor may not know personally every single person what's going on in their life, but he can have leaders who can know all of that,
Right.
who does know all of that. Like, who is so-and-so? It's like, oh, he's connected to this, he's connected to that. So yeah, tell me about him. So you can get like a profile on whoever it is that you're reaching out to, especially if they're
Right.
going to a hospital. You'll know whose leader he is, like, especially if he's connected to a group. This is why it's so important, especially if you're in a mega church. Get connected to a small group. Just
Yeah.
going to church on Sunday is not enough.
Yeah. Really.
I gave the statistic earlier in our failed attempt to record, but there's not a statistic. There was a poll.
Mhm.
Oh man, I had a brain freeze right there. There was a poll taken in America.
There's been a lot of that today. So
Yeah,
that's
I know. There's a poll taken here in America of how many people consider themselves churchgoers, and surprisingly, there's a lot of people who consider themselves churchgoers.
Mhm.
But when it came down to it, when they said define what a churchgoer is, how many times do you go to church, the average response was once a month, and they consider themselves a churchgoer.
Nice.
So if you're in that camp and you consider yourself a churchgoer, but you just go once a month, that is definitely not enough to get connected into a church body. You need to get really plugged in, because one of the weaknesses of a megachurch, I think I said this earlier, is you can get lost in the crowd, especially if you're a person that just doesn't want to talk to anybody. You just want to go get a feel-good message. Yeah, the megachurch is the place for you to go. You can get lost in the crowd and never get connected with anybody. But I know a lot of good megachurches, they constantly push small groups.
Right.
Like, get connected in a group, get connected, volunteer, serve, do this, do that, but stay connected, right? And it's up to the individual to do that. Now, obviously with the house churches, you can't do that. You don't have that luxury to disappear.
Right.
So just kind of flipping it now over to house churches, my experience in seeing how house churches get formed here in the States has more often than not, house churches have been started, and I'm not saying this is the case for every house church, but a house church gets started is because someone got offended at somebody in a mega church, and they decided, you know what, mega churches suck, and I'm going to start my own church, and it's going to be a house church. And it's the biblical form.
Yeah.
This is how churches are supposed to be. It says they met house to house and they broke bread with each other. This is the biblical format of how churches should be run, is in house churches. And so you get a lot of people who hate on mega churches and house churches.
Yeah.
They'll just hate on mega churches. Oh no, they're bad. They're bad. And so it usually becomes a club to bash mega churches.
Yeah.
Is what house churches tend to become.
I've noticed that. Well, I mean, because even some mega churches bash each other, but
Yeah.
I mean, like
Oh, for sure.
like
yeah.
John MacArthur's church will probably bash
Everyone.
most people
Right.
out of like well, I mean, like most Baptist churches will do that, but I've noticed that, and I understand that we have to call out the sheep, or not the sheep, the goats. Yes.
There you go. Call it the wolves.
The wolves. Yeah, you know, and I'm for that. I 100% am. You know, calling out Lakewood is fine when they got it wrong. Calling
Right.
out whoever you need to call out is okay when they got it wrong.
Yeah, well, especially when they don't admit it.
Yeah.
They gotta.
You know, Creflo Dollar or Jesse Duplantis asking for $1 trillion planes. That's not righteousness.
Kenneth Copeland, stop it.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Stop rebuking Corona like that. That's not how it works, you know? People are still going to get sick. Like, gravity still exists.
Right.
It's real. It's a real.
There's still germs.
Yeah.
Germs exist.
Space is real.